Well, Donald Trump issued a warning yesterday that active ISIS terrorists are being allowed into the United States while posing as Syrian refugees. Now, this is a scenario that we have discussed many times here at InfoWars, and indeed, ISIS themselves had said that they are going to exploit the refugee crisis to commit global jihad. Now, joining me now is Margaret Howell. Margaret, it seems like even with this dire warning, even with just the evidence that is so blatantly in our faces, these terrorist attacks happening all over the world now, the Obama administration refuses to see this as a threat, and they keep trying to gaslight America and say, don't worry about it.
Isn't that remarkable, Leanne? So I brought some information for you tonight. The Trump statement was really powerful. He was on Bill O'Reilly last night, and he said that he believed that ISIS, they're posing as refugees entering the U.S. this way. He cautioned against it. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Groups like ISIL can't destroy us. They can't defeat us. They don't produce anything. They're not an existential threat to us.
So we heard President Obama say that ISIL is not a threat, just an existential one, whatever the hell that means. I had to Google that one, Leanne, honestly. He's saying that they're not a threat. You know, we've got this under control, but that's completely counter to what our own CIA Director John Brennan had to say about this yesterday. He was commenting on the airport bombing in Istanbul, and this is what he had to say. It's particularly shocking because he's saying that ISIS is going to attack a U.S. city. He just doesn't know when or where. He said this to a Yahoo reporter. It was casually mentioned on the news today. If anybody here believes the U.S. homeland is hermetically sealed and that ISIS would not consider that, I would guard against it. Oh, really? That is so comforting, Leanne. He's basically saying that ISIS is going to attack just like they attacked Turkey. He just doesn't know when.
And not only are we not hermetically sealed, and we get it, but they are actively bringing in refugees. In fact, they're disappointed about the fact that they haven't been able to bring in as many as they said they were going to bring in.
That's absolutely right. So I'm of the belief that our State Department is funneling in thousands more than they're actually giving in that official number. You can see that across communities all across America's heartland, throughout the country. And this one article, it came out on the 7th of June, a few weeks ago, and one day, a record number, 253 in one single day. Now, that's a lot per day. We're doing that.
Yeah.
We've heard the president say that he's promised to take at least 10,000. We know that the United States has approved 4,700 Syrian refugees that are waiting to resettle, another 7,900 that are waiting for their security review, whatever that means. But we know that these refugees, they're coming from ISIS territory. They're coming from places that we can't properly vet them. So we're really not sure. And there's really no passport process with the state of Syria currently. So back to Trump's point that Syrian refugees, and ISIS has even said, we're going to use the refugee crisis as a way to enter the states, to infiltrate and to wreak havoc.
Right. And they've kind of pointed out the fact that, you know, people are pushing back against what Donald Trump says, and even he's walked it back a little, saying, well, I just mean from territories where we have a lot of this terrorism activity going on. But even ISIS released a map supposedly showing their global influence of the countries where they have people. So we honestly do not even know where they're from. They might not even be from Syria. Maybe they're coming from France. Maybe they're coming from Germany, Russia.
Or a state where they can easily enter the border. That's right. Typically, we see that through Canada. It's much more easy to gain a passport, a visa through Canada than it is the U.S. currently. But our State Department, they're fixing that. They're on it. They're fast-tracking people through. The Washington Post, of all sites, which that tells you something if they're actually covering this. The Islamic State suspected inroads into America. They did a piece, it's 6 days old, where they actually list out people that are IS affiliates, that are IS fighters, that are IS sympathizers, that have already been arrested. Federal prosecutors have charged and arrested 88 men and women around the country. Get this, they are in every major city in the U.S. They actually list out these people that have been arrested and charged. We've got Rochester, New York, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Queens, Rochester, goes on and on, California, Orange County, San Diego, Anaheim. I mean, you name it, every major city. Austin is on here, Spring, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, Minneapolis, Buffalo, Ohio. It's everywhere. We're seeing ISIS arrests.
And these are the main, a lot of the main states where we're seeing them bringing in the refugees, and then lo and behold, this ideology is getting a hold of them, supposedly, or
they're not
did
coming
they bring
in
it
with
in?
it.
Right. They're getting radicalized once they're already here. And there's actually a story out today at the Daily Mail several weeks ago. There was a man who left to go join ISIS, and then he put out an SOS email saying, "Come save me. I regret this. I'm through with this evil." And this was a guy that was going to an Ivy League school. He had a good life, a good future ahead of him, but for whatever reason, he was really disillusioned, and so he wants to go and join ISIS. So it's not the State Department saying, oh, well, we just need to give them jobs and give them an opportunity, and then, they won't go out and do this. No, this is their ideology, and he was a little bit disillusioned once he got there and said that this is not the Islam that I grew up with, that I knew. This is something evil. And it just goes to show that people are willing to join this group based on this Islamic ideology because they take this religion very seriously, much more seriously than we think.
It's radical Islam. That's what we're talking about here. And Trump hit it on the head last night. And we've seen Hillary Clinton come out after this speech. She was talking to a group in YouTube in Los Angeles. And she basically said, you're a xenophobe, you're a bigot.
All the buzzwords.
You're a racist. If you dare say, wait a second, we should vet, we should know who's coming into our country, we should understand and have proper security measures in place, especially since our own CIA Director John Brennan is saying, look, an ISIS attack will occur on U.S. soil, similar to that which has happened in Turkey this week. We just don't know when.
Right. And of course, they issued these warnings last year for the 4th of July. They said, don't go in large crowds. So we're probably going to be seeing those same type of warnings here for this 4th of July coming up. But that's just the thing, is like they know it's going to happen. They're kind of getting us, massaging it into us that, just it's going to happen. Even talking about moving TSA checkpoints to the outside of airports. And of course, Alex has been talking about this for years, saying that's what's coming next. We've already seen them moving into stadiums and things like that. But if you know that this is going to be an issue, why such a pushback to try and vet people and try to stop this from happening?
We can't close the floodgate. I'm of the belief, and I've been looking at these reports all morning to kind of have a conclusive number of whom we're letting in, from where, the amount. It's so inconclusive. It's so erratic. It's so schizophrenic, if you will. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and they keep saying, this number, no, this number. Nobody really knows. What we do know is that there is a fast-tracked group. Now, I don't want to downplay the major humanitarian crisis that's going on with Yazidi Christians are being slaughtered. This particular number that I brought to you earlier of the one day, every single refugee they brought in is Muslim. And if you look at the percentage rates, it's overwhelming. We're not taking people that are being heavily persecuted, that are being, dragged and raped and their husband shot in front of them. We're taking...
Specifically targeting the Yazidis and the Christians, and they're the sex slaves because they're the infidels. And why is their crisis not of importance?
We could make a plausible case for a refugee whose life is in imminent danger of being raped and murdered, beheaded if you don't submit as a sex slave. But you know what? We have this really special class, this really special group, and you'd think we would taper this mass influx given the fact that our own CIA... I keep going back to that because I want people to leave with this. He's saying it is going to happen. Now, the question for me is, Leanne, and I know a lot of people looking at this, is the Trojan horse, is it here? Is it too late? Have we already passed the point of no return? I'm hopeful that we haven't. But Trump's words are a caution and just a reality check for anybody looking at this who might be on the fence.
Right. And of course, we also had the former CIA director coming out and saying that it's time to do away with the political correctness, because that's actually thwarting their efforts to fight terrorism. Because and Hillary Clinton, even in the face of this, is using the PC, all the buzzwords, to frighten people into speaking out about this. Japan is actively saying, we're going to go ahead and track the Muslim people that we do have here in our country, which is a very small amount of people because they protect their borders. But that's something that has been a big issue on the left. It forces people to be too afraid to speak out. So it does, it is a lot with this political correctness. And honestly, Trump has already smashed that narrative. Well, thank you very much, Margaret. And